it that, you're always being treated as a child, even though when they need you to be an adult, to lean upon you, they will call you like, AKA, I need some money for so and so. I need to pack a barrel for so and so. But when it comes to respecting you as an adult, all of a sudden you're a child. You don't know what you're doing. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Welcome back to Lemon Healing Podcast.
Where laughter meets inner peace.
We're your host, Shaka.
And I'm Kiana.
And we just want to thank you for tuning in to another episode of your favorite podcast, Alignment and Healing. We want to thank everyone who's here with us. And thank you, everyone, for subscribing and liking and commenting. Your engagement means everything to us. And if you're new here, remember to hit that subscribe button. And even if you're not new here, you can share it and tell other people to subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate it. This episode is going to be really good, really deep, so I really hope you enjoy. What are we talking about today, Kiana?
Yeah, so today, we've always had conversations about why is it that Caribbean adults, children, why is it that you can pay your own bills, you can have your own place, married, have your own kids, and still not be considered an adult in the eyes of the adultier adults, aka your parents, grandparents, etc. Why is it that, you're always being treated as a child, even though when they need you to be an adult, to lean upon you, they will call you like, AKA, I need some money for so and so. I need to pack a barrel for so and so. But when it comes to respecting you as an adult, all of a sudden you're a child. You don't know what you're doing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to talk about, because if you're a forever child, is that love? Is that culture? Or is it something deeper?
That's good.
But actually, before we jump into it, how could I forget that we're in one of our beautiful merch today?
One Caribbean.
Represent One Caribbean. So check it out at limeandhealing.com along with our other merch. And just give it a look, because look at this design. This is so cute and it's comfortable.
We got to talk about that. But yeah, so basically, immigrant
represent One Caribbean. So check it out at limeandhealing.com along with our other merch. And just give it a look, because look at this design. This is so cute and it's comfortable.
We got to talk about that. But yeah, so basically, immigrant kids, right, or be forever kids, right? And you made such a good point. I love, what you're talking about in terms of like us, we're doing all of these things, but still we're seen as kids. Now, for me, I definitely think that in some regards, I know some people have different issues in terms of this, like just like you mentioned about, some people, they're paying bills, their own bills, but they're paying other people's bills, or and all these different things. So it's like, but still, yet you're a child, you're obligated, and all these different things. But for me personally, I think, to me, in terms of, I am still a child in basically behavior or whatever to them, like as respect or something. That's how I think I'm seen as a kid. Like it doesn't matter how old I am or whatever. I am still a child to them, and that means that I can't ever, like, I won't even say talk out of turn, but like even having conversations that like to pull them up or whatever. No, you can't do this. So to me, I think that's where I am seen as a forever child, and I hate it.
Because we literally had this conversation yesterday or the day before, when we were talking about that it don't matter as long as you're in the presence of older people.
Yes,
you are a child.
And I struggle with that a lot, because I'm like, I have a voice just as much as you. So like I think that I should be able to I'm an adult, so I should contribute as an adult as well. Not because
Yeah.
and I hear that. What about you? What do you think about are you seen as a forever child or kid
Yeah,
in your life?
I think the way that our culture is set up, I definitely do feel as though, even though I'm an adult, that when I'm around like older people in the family and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that oftentimes, I am viewed as, yes, they acknowledge that you're an adult, but you're still a child. Like in the sense that, they expect respect, they expect certain um kind of what
Want
to
to give an
say,
example?
a certain type of like the way that the family is, what's the word I'm looking for, like
The dynamic.
the dynamic of the family, like who is like the head, like you have your place, you have your role, you don't step out of that role because you are aka younger, aka seen as a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's different lens to it. So I don't personally feel as though um I'm seen as a child per se,
Okay.
but I am seen as a lesser adult, if that makes sense. A lesser adult, because there's levels to this. There's levels to this.
Okay.
Because I feel like in some instances, the the infantilization of the person is even more, because for some people
Okay.
they might do everything for their adult child because, oh, you're not good enough, you're not able to cook because I don't trust that you know what you're doing. Facts, cook for me too. But and stuff like that. So I feel like there's levels to it, But for me, I feel like I wouldn't say I'm, seen as a child, maybe a teenager. How about that? Or a young adult.
Do you like have like for me, like a specific example for me is like once again I'm not allowed to speak on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like if I think that there's some kind of dysfunction happening or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't have a voice, I don't have an opinion, even though let's say I might be skilled in the topic,
Yeah.
right, or whatever, I'm not seen as credible because I'm not as old
Older.
as that person.
I think that is a cultural thing for sure, and I think that
You have that with in your family?
to a certain degree, yeah. Like if I know it's kind of confusing. People are like your family. When we say your family, let's clarify. Like a lot of times, I'm sure they're like, I thought you were sisters. Like
We are sisters.
she mean like, okay, different mothers. So when you say your family, she's talking about, or her family, she's talking about her mother's side, and in my family, my mother's side.
Yes.
Just for clarification. um, I think it depends who I talk to. Some people do uphold that belief that
Because I think they value your opinion a lot.
they do. I wouldn't say nay to that, but also me personally,
you're the oldest grandchild too, right? Like
no, I'm not.
Girl.
Technically, no.
What, like 2 days or something?
But technically, I am of the oldest, yeah. But yeah.
I'm way down on the total pool because my family's way older. Like,
yeah. So I think it depends, but again, there's spectrum to this because some family, and that's we've talked about it. Your experience is that you can't say squat.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's my experience. No, I think I can say stuff like
but you're still seen
with caution. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're still okay. Well, yeah. So that's basically. Let us know in the comments. What you think. Are immigrants specifically, or we're like forever kids? Because like we're living in American society, a lot of people, they don't have the same issues. When they're grown, they move out, they live by themselves, they take care of everything, but that's not necessarily.
Shoot, they be living in the parents' home and be like, you can't talk to me like that, Mom.
Exactly, right? So that's not something. So like, why are we, like our culture, why are we seen as, let's say, let's call it like forever kids, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we have like a deeper attachment, especially if a person like moved over here and they're like first generation, they see like, oh, I made a sacrifice, I came over here and I did all of this for you or whatever.
Yeah.
So they always seem like, oh, I'm indebted forever to do what for my parents, right?
Yes.
Because
and this is why in therapy, a lot of therapists, because America is a very individualistic society.
Society. Yeah.
Like it's about me, but immigrant family, like we're
It's about
collective,
us.
right? So when you come to America and they're like, you need to, do you 100%. Like it's not gonna work because
No,
it's
it's
way
not.
more nuanced than that for us.
Yeah.
And finding that healthy balance whereby you're seen as an adult child and not as a part of an extension of the greater community. That's something that we have to work through within our culture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard because, a lot of, immigrants, especially they see you as, purpose for them. Like, like they hold on to it. I'm doing this for you or whatever. As you mentioned, it's not as individualistic. I'm not doing it. They're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I want my children to have a
Yeah.
better life, a better, so they sacrifice and it's their purpose. So because it's so important, like they live through you basically, it's
Yeah.
hard to like let go and now, for you to be grown because basically, that's not the case. Second thing is like they're very protective, right? They're
Yeah.
very protective of you, especially once again, come if they're here and they're in a new place or whatever per se. It's not like how the old, they how they're used to it and all the things that we would see. So they're extremely protective as well, and that never turns off.
Yeah.
Basically, like if you even if you travel somewhere wherever, I'm sure you gotta
Oh,
text your mom and be like,
yeah.
oh, I'm here, oh,
The plane
whatever.
about to take off. The
Yeah,
plane just land. I just land
exactly.
in the
Whereby some
Uber.
people like they don't even know. Like they're like like my husband, he's American white, and he would be in a whole other state, and then you come back and be like, oh, I was in Texas
Yeah.
last week, and I'm like, what? You didn't? Like, they had no clue,
Yeah.
and that would never like that's something that that will happen. And one of the big thing is, as we mentioned earlier, like cultural respect. Like respect is something that is so important in immigrant societies. Like even like I was watching like in African societies, they gotta bend down to
Yeah.
the
Prostrate.
elders,
Yeah.
prostrate. I don't like the
Mhm.
word prostrate is just crazy to me. Like wow, what? And the fact that they gotta do that to their elders, like
Mhm.
that is like that's not our culture, but basically it's not to that level. Obviously we do have African bag and it comes down to the
Yeah.
Caribbean, but
Cause
it's basically similar to that. Like
yeah.
you have to respect your elders,
Mhm.
and even though you're an elder,
Yeah.
you know
Cause it's like you know, first of all, in Caribbean culture, everybody you meet somebody, you come in this room, you better say address everyone.
exactly.
Stuff like that is like respect. But to piggyback off of the respect thing is that they're big on like hierarchy in their Caribbean culture. Like there's based on age. I would say it's very age related hierarchy. It's not necessarily who has the more wisdom, who has the most education about a topic. It's about age, right? So you respect your elders as well. So like if you are younger and you're coming, you gotta really depending on how they would be receptive of it. You can like unless they, I guess if they invite you in to the equation, like hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? You can share your opinion. Because a lot of times they
And
don't
a lot of times, once again, I'm not used to that.
they don't
They
respect
don't even care for your
yeah,
opinion.
they don't respect it or they don't even want it because they had way more life experiences than you, they live longer than you. So how dare you try to come and tell them anything?
Yeah.
But again, and that's something we should all question because you can learn a lot from anyone if you really open yourself to that. Even kids, you can learn from kids.
Yeah.
Again,
Exactly.
you can learn from that, but that doesn't mean that because someone's younger than you, they can't teach you something. So that's a unwise way to approach life.
Exactly.
But
So what else? What else?
yeah, some other things is like, why parents will treat you as a child forever is that, their identity and their emotional dependency is upon you. Raising kids is not easy, and we acknowledge that. Like,
Yeah.
it's a self-sacrificing thing to do, and some people do that well, some people not so much.
Hmm.
Some people pour into their children, like their children are their everything. I would say like for my mom, growing up as with a single mom, she definitely self-sacrifice a lot because she had to. She's in survival mode, trying to raise four children on her own for the most part, and having to basically, hustle, And when you're so used to that, then your kids become adults and they don't require that level of care. Like you become lost. And I've had
That's true.
conversations with her where I'm like, you're a grandma. Like for many years, she's been a grandma. I'm like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are things that you like to do? And she's like, I don't know. And it might sound like, well, girl, you should have known. But the truth is, a lot of people had to sacrifice a lot to raise children and, in survival mode. And it takes a lot, it takes a lot from them. And when they're so used to that, and then you become an adult, like that takes away a huge identity for them. So now they're like, their kids are grown, but they're like still seeing you as a baby. Like, but you were my child. Like, what do you mean? You want to move out of state? What do you mean? You want to leave me? Like, and then you're like, bro, I'm an adult. Like, like this is what adult people do. Like, you leave, right?
Yeah.
And I get it from their side as well. Like that's hard to have to adjust to that new reality of having to let go. And I can't even imagine because I'd be looking at my like our nieces and nephews and I see them getting older and I'm like, oh my god, if I was a mom, I probably would cry every day
Yeah.
because I'm like the growing up. Oh, I don't know how your parents do it. That would wreck me.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's why I'm like, I would want to move with
Where
them.
you move, I move.
Right?
Just like that.
So
When
I
you
get
move,
it.
I move. Just like
But
that.
I think to me too with that, especially like the immigrant way, like like we do speak English, but a lot of times whereby when they immigrant, like somebody come from a different place, they don't
Like
speak
Haiti.
English,
Yeah, you
and
speaking
then their
Creole.
kids know they gotta speak the English for them, and they gotta like they
Yeah.
literally depend on that child, not only
Yeah.
emotionally, but like just to get by. Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? Or like you learn the system, because you were born here or whatever, easier than
Yeah.
them. Now you got to navigate,
Without them.
navigate their life. So even though you might be doing the adult thing, they're so dependent on you,
Yeah.
right? So it's hard for you to
Yeah.
leave.
And the problem with that is that, we acknowledge that it's difficult to let go. And, you can feel that loss. But in the same breath, you know, you got to acknowledge that the people that you birthed, raised, whatever, are adults. They're not children because you can't just hold on to them, and holding on sometimes can cause more harm than good, even though you mean well. That it might prevent them from growing into who they need to become
Yeah.
as an adult, as a grown up. And a lot of times, you when that happens, where the dynamic is the child is needed in the home, they're deterred from going after their dreams, going after their desires because they're like, oh, why you want to leave? Rent high, which is true, but
Yeah.
they still got to go out there and figure life out for themselves. Like you want to stay in this house, like you go there, I cook it, I clean it for you, and you mean well, but a lot of times that might do more harm to that person than good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
another thing that happens is that, again, we're immigrants from a collective society where we're so used to looking out for each other. A lot of times what parents fear is that when you want to leave, you want to move, you basically want to go after your own desires and goals and your dreams. They fear that you're losing your culture, like
Yeah.
that you're trying to be like Americans. You're trying to be selfish for yourself. You're trying to forget about them, forget about
Selfish for yourself.
our
That's so
community,
good.
the community and stuff like that. So, and they sometimes they might see it as disrespect, like how dare you want to go and live in a studio for $2,000 a month while you could have lived in the basement, like. They find it
Yeah.
disrespectful, like like you don't like me, you don't want to live with me, but that's not the point. The point is,
Yeah.
you could like your parent, you can even enjoy them, but you still desire to have your own space, to have
Yes.
your own thing going on. Because again, you are a fully fledged adult, and they, don't see it in that way.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Exactly. And I get it that it's hard to, because that's, once again, like, it's a different culture. That's not what they're used to. So now when you move over here and want to do what the Americans are doing, sometimes they do see it as a disrespect and a disregard to, well, this is exactly,
Mhm.
what, you mentioned, like, they see that, oh, you don't want anything to do with them, but that's,
Yeah.
not the case, right? But even though we're saying that, it's not all bad, right? It's not all bad. Like,
I
yes,
agree.
having that, there's good to it. There's pros to it. You having that strong support system, like, it's good. Like, to have, a lot of people don't know what, especially on this side, they don't know what is it to have, like, a close family, a big family, to even have the opportunity to, like, if you can't afford rent, you can actually live with your parents. Like,
Yeah.
that's a big deal. Like, some people don't have that,
Mhm. That's a
right?
big deal.
Right. So that's a good thing. And like, you have a family, sometimes they might help you get a job. A lot of people out here, it's individualistic, as you mentioned. A lot of people on their own, right? A lot of,
Struggling.
especially Caribbean families, they live together, right?
Mhm.
And they help each other. They help each other with money and all these different things. They need to borrow some money, they help you. Somebody in
Mhm.
trouble, people pull the money. Susu, baksan, as we call it.
Mhm. Partner.
Right? You
Mhm.
have these things. So we do have a good support system. Also, like, they teach you discipline, work ethic, having that, because it's not only about you. Like,
Mhm.
early on, like, what? It's not just about me. It's about, I gotta help my
Yeah.
sister, my brother, whoever, right? So you do, like, it is good. You do work harder, right? And at the end of the day, you do have community, right? You have, like,
Yeah.
this family first mindset, which is good, because at the end of the day, that's really what's important. It's not always being selfish or whatever.
Yeah.
So we do have, good good things about it. We're not just bashing, oh, parents won't do whatever, because I know a lot of parents are looking, oh, this way you think or this way you feel. No, we understand that. But you gotta look at it as, in terms of, like, it's a lot of good, but not just for yourself,
Yeah.
because a lot of times it just benefits the parents, not only, but a lot of time it does. So you got to
Mhm.
look beyond yourself to, yes, you sacrifice for this child that you made, don't forget
Yeah.
that part, but it's a lot more to it, right? But the bad parts of it, like, some of us, like, like, we didn't struggle to grow up, because we grew up, but
Yeah.
we're struggling because we weren't allowed to grow up. They
Mhm.
want us to, stay in that same place, and
Yeah.
and then we're not. So they got to see us as adults and understand that things are going to be different.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, the cons, I would say, because everything got a pro and a cons, and like you mentioned, some really good pros, because there is some good to it,
Yeah.
but one of the cons is delayed independence, right? Because you're literally having your parents making decisions for you, where you go to school, what job to take, et cetera, and you're not making these decisions for yourself, and sometimes you're doing it based off to please them. And then now, later in life, then you realize, what, I in a completely field in a I never
Oh,
even
that's so
want to
good.
be in,
That's so good.
right? So now you're delayed with your independence, because you could have had it sooner, but you had to
Mm-hmm.
accept that other people were making the decisions for you. Another
Yeah.
thing too is that the guilt-based living, you feel as though you need to repay them. My parents came to America, they sacrificed so much, you want to repay them, right? And I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. We all want to, for the most part, give back to our parents out of love. I said for the most part, not we all, but many of us want to show reflect that love back to our parents, especially as they get older. And but which is a good thing, that's a plus, but it's not a requirement per se, right? And a lot of times with a guilt-based living is that you're living to repay, like you're living from, like, you indebted, and you're not living for yourself essentially. And then the
Yeah, but with that too, I just wanna. It's like, as we call it, like, the black tax, right? And
mhm,
you talk about delay independence. I think, to me too, all of that, delay independence, living with guilt, because you feel like you, just as you mentioned, same way, like you mentioned with, your mom, like, she gave everything to you or whatever, and now you guys are older, and, like, what she do with this stuff. I feel like sometimes it's the same thing has happened with us, because, like, all we know, like for me, all I know, like I wanted to do is like please my family, please my parents, please them,
Mm-hmm.
make sure whatever, right? And then now me being out here on my own, now me myself, I was like, what am I doing? Like
Yeah, that's a good point.
right? Like it happens to us as well, like, because now we
You're
weren't
lost.
living for ourselves, and we weren't living ourselves, even for like jobs. Everybody want
Mm.
everybody to be a doctor, everybody to be a lawyer, and
Lawyer.
all these different things. No,
Engineer.
exactly. So now you doing something you didn't even want to do,
Yeah.
right? Or something that you can't even do, right?
Yeah.
And then to money, talk about monetary. Like you could
Mm-hmm.
have been saving all of these coins, but you had to
Yeah.
give it to Tom, auntie, this body, the body, whatever. And
Yeah.
once again, we're not saying that you cannot give, but the expectation is there that you have to
Right.
because of whatever. People be like, "Oh, you're selfish" or whatever. No, it's it's something that we have to move on from because we want better. Don't you want better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you give to your kids and everything, but it's time you have to let go. They
Right.
can't be indebted to you.
And even give it to your kids because there's like you mentioned like sometimes the parents overdo it too. Like
They do.
you're crippling your kids because you're doing way too much for them than is
Yes.
necessary. Like you're not teaching them independence,
Correct.
and they're leaning on you because some people have the desire to move on, and and they can because the parents are holding them back. But then there's some of them who love it. Let's be honest. Some of them love it. Like, oh, mommy and daddy can treat me like a kid forever. I absolutely want to stay here. And then
Yeah.
you're wondering, oh God, I'm old now. I can't take care of Junior because I can't work as hard. Junior ain't get a job yet. And you're entering retirement and you can't take care of him, and that's another way of,
Yeah, you're crippling their
you're
growth.
crippling their growth because you're not allowing them to develop as an adult. And another one, which is a big one, is that, the cons of like, holding on too tightly and infantilizing your adult child is that they have like weak boundaries, right?
Yes.
Because let's be honest,
Yeah, that's so good.
when you're in the Caribbean family, if someone asks something of you, you're supposed to say yes, right? Whatever it is that you're supposed to be available to help. Again, collective community, we're all connected, we're helping each other, etc. But when you say no, that can be viewed as disrespect. That can be viewed as selfish, right? And then you feel bad because, oh my goodness, like, you're trying to, like, for example, let's say holiday time coming up and they're like, oh, we pack into barrel or whatever. It's real. This is real examples. And you're like, you're supposed to be like, yes, even though you shouldn't because you either saving for something or you're in debt and you need to pay off the debt. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you got to be real, and again, when you don't have the boundary because you're expected to put duty above, yourself, and it is still harmful.
Exactly. No, yeah, and that's one of the biggest things. And we had episode on boundaries. Definitely check it out. But that's one of the biggest things for with this because like some even though with some parents they live with the kids, they live with the parents, they don't even have like space, like the room space, like literal boundaries.
Yeah.
They do not have. The parents could come into their room anytime, do what they want.
Open their mail, open the mail.
Which is illegal, by the way. But
no boundary.
No boundaries whatsoever because you feel entitled to invade this space because of whatever. So yeah, having boundaries is a big one, right?
Yeah,
like that's something that we not even like taught or whatever. Like, oh, it's your mom, it's your brother. Oh, you want to give money to them? Like you give last year. Every year we got to give to the barrel. You know what I'm saying? Every
it's expected,
year, give to the barrel.
Facts.
But, no.
Yeah. And then another thing too is, you get conflict with your identity because you're torn between your culture, what you're used to, what you want to respect and honor and uphold, and yourself. So it's like a war between like, oh my gosh, like this is what we do, Christmas time. That's the customary thing. You send barrels, you gave back home and stuff like that. And it's like, oh gosh, like what I'm gonna do, And to be honest, it's hard. Like we're talking these things. These are lived experiences. Like it's real, and it comes from a place of like, oh my goodness, I really need to for a moment, really got to think about this because, like you said, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over. You did it last year, you can't do it again this year. Like you gotta put a stop to it. 'Cause if not, you're gonna run yourself ragged, and who is gonna hurt in the end? You, right?
Exactly.
And another con is emotional regression, right? Because a lot of times there's memes like we joke like, oh, you go home for visit, you go home for Thanksgiving, you go home for whatever holiday, and then you
And
just
you turn back
regress
into the
right back into a
child.
child because, and that's normal. Like like
Yes,
you fall back
psychologically, yeah.
you fall back into the role, the familiar role, like your birth order, whatever it is that is your role, you literally go back there. And a lot of times, it's subconscious, like that's just who I am. Like around my mom, like or my dad, this is how they behave. This is what I expect. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be quiet and yeah, and whatever examples of that that may be in your life, like you literally go back into that role because again, if you're viewed as a child, even though you're an adult,
Yeah,
you will always be treated as a child. And to be honest,
exactly.
children are the un most vulnerable people in society because a lot of times they don't have no autonomy. They're not respected because they're small, they're younger, and a lot of times some of them are not protected, right? So if that's the way we view our children, and you're an adult, it comes across very disrespectful because
Thank you.
I'm an
Indeed.
adult, have respect. And again, in our culture is that we have like a hierarchical system because of age. A lot of times adults think that, oh, because I'm older than you, I can talk to you anyway. I can talk to you cash crazy because I'm older than
Or
you.
don't apologize.
Or don't apologize or don't,
And
whatever.
you wrong this adult person, right?
Hmm.
You wrong them. Even if you wrong a child, you should apologize, right?
Absolutely.
But now we're an adult. Stakes are higher, right? I would say stakes. I mean, yes, stakes are higher, right? When
Yeah.
you can't apologize, oh, they know they gotta come to me or they gotta do this because they're the child. Yes, but they're
Yeah.
still an adult, right? They're still an adult. So what you could do as parents. So I'd like to divide it too.
Yeah.
What you could do as parents, and then what you could do, as like I get it. You want to make sure, once again, sometimes parents do it because it's sometimes familiarity. Like since a child, you're guiding them, you're helping them, you're teaching them,
Hmm.
and you want what's best for them. It's not always about me or whatever. You want what's best for them,
Right.
but you gotta know the difference between guiding and controlling.
Yeah.
Right? Look at that crazy story that we saw you sent to me, whereby Indian family, right? Not Caribbean Indian, you know,
India.
India,
Hmm.
and the son decided to marry a black girl,
Hmm.
and then the father hire a hitman
Hmm.
to kill his son, his daughter-in-law. They were married. They had
Had
a
a child.
child.
Hmm.
Like that is insane. Now, obviously, that's an extreme case, right? But sometimes the control might not be so literal, right? But it's psychological. Like, you can't
Yeah.
marry out your culture. Oh, you can't do this or whatever. This is a guidance, not a control, right? Look to make sure that you're doing for what's best for them. Because as you mentioned too, it might be a crutch. It might be crippling them.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't want them to make the same mistakes I make. I always say this: some people learn by seeing, and some people
Hmm.
learn by doing. And sometimes you gotta let that person learn by doing, and let
Yes.
them make the mistakes. But you can always say, right? You can always say, and if they choose to do something else, let them feel that hurt, right?
Yeah.
Let them figure it out because at the end of the day, you're not gonna be around forever. Let's be honest, you're not gonna be around forever,
Yeah.
right? And you want them. When you have kids, you want them to be good on their own. That's what you're supposed to do, right? You want them to, like, okay, when they leave, they're able to do it without you.
Yeah.
That's a good one of the good things of parenting, right? So you want to guide, you don't want to guilt them. Also, definitely, oh sorry, don't guilt them. Don't be like, oh, all
Yeah.
I do for you and this, and like, no, like that's like, like how, speaking as a child or whatever, that really hurt somebody,
Yeah.
like the child is not doing it to you because they want to harm you or hurt you or something. They're choosing to live their life in this way, and then
Mhm.
now you're guilting them.
Mhm.
Like, can you remember when you were a child and your parents, because it's another thing too, it's so like generational.
Yeah.
And how would you feel? I'm sure that you disappointed your parents, that you did something, and how did you feel? Like, think about that when it's
Yeah.
when it's
And
their turn.
again, what do you do for your kids is to be expected. You bring them into this world, so
That's so
you
true.
can't hold that over their head. Feeding them, clothing them, providing emotional safety, security. Those are the bare minimums. And a lot of
Yes.
times you don't even get all. So you can be like guilt tripping your kids into what you did for them. That's what you were supposed to do as a parent.
Exactly. What else? What else we should advise the parents to do?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, so being different doesn't mean, being disrespectful, right? You definitely, like, that's another thing too, just like the example that we gave, right? You're not necessarily, because you choose to marry outside the culture, it means that you disrespecting them or anything like that. You definitely want to, like, embrace their difference. Like, you brought them here to this world. A lot of times, in this way, immigrants, you brought them here, right? And so they're experiencing something
different,
different, so it's
yes.
different from you, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
And you brought them here, and that's a good point. Like, either they, a lot of times you go to school, the kids that you brought either go to school or you have kids over here, and you expect them to be exactly like you. Like, their environment is
So
different,
different.
their experiences are different. So you have to really be mindful of that, they're having different experiences along with the culture. So, in a way, especially Caribbean children in the diaspora who live abroad in America, in the UK, in Canada, etc. A lot of times you just will never truly fit in anywhere. You will never be fully wherever you are, nor fully Caribbean, because your
True.
experiences will be different, your mindset will be different, and you have to embrace that as well. You gotta trust
It's
and
okay to be
believe.
different, yeah.
Yeah, and you gotta trust as parents. At the end of the day, you gotta trust in your heart of heart, especially if you did the work, that you've done a good enough job to, whereby your kids will be okay. And be a good enough parents that if ever the need that they need to go, come back home, go back home, that you will be there for them.
Yeah.
And that's it, because you can't control everything. That's their lives. That's their life. Just like it's your life to have your choices and opinions, that's theirs as well. And the sooner, you understand that and let them live their life in a way that they can, because it's their lives, the better they will be. I'm not saying that you can't guide your kids. I'm not saying that you can offer your opinions. Obviously, do those things with respect again, because you don't have to be controlling. You don't have to be crazy about it. Like, you can honestly come from a place of love. Like, you know, I see XYZ. Are you sure that's what you want? Like, have those moments of queries and like dialogue with them, but do it from a place of respect. You don't have to treat them as kids when they're an adult, because that reinforces the fact that you have no respect for them. And as an adult, you need to even switch the relationship dynamic from that of when they were a child to that of peers, because we're both adults now. Obviously, yes, you're the parent and stuff like that. Respect will be there if it's there. And you should really work on treating your child as though they're a peer of yours, like, that we can sit down, we can have conversation, and not as if they're 10 years old, because you haven't learned how to emotionally regulate yourself, even though your kids are no longer that age.
Yeah, exactly. And for the kids too, definitely, as mentioned before, set your boundaries, right? It's okay to be different. Definitely set your boundaries, and advice sometimes is love, right? It not necessarily mean pressure. It doesn't mean that everything that they say you have to do. Like, that's okay. That's okay. So, like, and try, definitely with the boundaries. Therapy is always good, because we want to come out and do different things. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
should go to therapy, parents, kids. That's
Yes.
about advice
Yes.
in general.
Yes.
But definitely, try your best to, you can listen, but you can respectfully disagree. That's okay. You don't have to be like,
Co-signing, yeah.
but or getting so mad with them, because yes, they are stuck in their ways. We don't, like, necessarily everyone's stuck in their ways, but you understand where they're coming from, but it's okay to do different. It's not pressure, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be pressure, and if they love you, they will understand.
Yeah.
So,
And if not, they'll come around, trust. Or not.
or not, and that's okay too.
Yeah. But yeah, so hope you've gotten something from this. Kids, if you're an adult child who are always being, treated as a child, not being respected, your opinions, boundaries constantly being violated. I hope you have learned something from this, that you deserve to be treated as an adult, have respect. And again, if you're one of those adult child that don't want to grow up because you like being told what to do and treat a certain way, like, you gotta be mindful, because when people do for you, they treat you any kind of way because they will hold it over your head. So if you don't want to go out and work and earn your own living, you gotta spend your mommy and daddy money. You're opening the door for a lot of disrespect. And respectfully, I wouldn't want to be treated that way. I like having autonomy over myself. Like, I like, that's one of the good things about being an adult. Is like you have a say so on what you don't want to do. Right?
Sure.
So if you're a parent listening to this, we understand, we empathize that, letting go of the children that you raised up. Sometimes it was hard, and now to transition to that phase of, like, oh, you have adult children, like, you don't know how to switch that dynamic. Like, we really urge you to, treat them the way you would want to be treated. Have respect for them. Look at them as your peers. Yes, they're your child, your children, but they're also adult people. They're people with their own lives. Like, and that boundaries, like, have boundaries. And respect their boundaries. But we hope that this episode would really shed some light on this, because it's so common within our community, and it's something that, yes, part of it is cultural, but it can be worked upon. Not because things are cultural means that we gotta keep it that way. Like, we can improve, we can be better because of it. We're not saying to
Correct.
get away with our collective style of community where we look out for each other. Like, that's pros in that, but also um, having space to also respect individuals within said community is something that we really need to prioritize. But we hope that this episode will really shed light on that and you would learn something from it. Please give us a like, a thumbs up, comment. What do you think about this? Is it something you struggle with within your own family? If you're an adult, if you're a parent, let us know how would you want, especially if your kids are not old as yet or they're not adults as yet, what kind of relationship would you want to have with them in the future? You should need to start thinking of that now so that you can cultivate that while they're small.
Exactly.
Definitely hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so as yet. If you haven't checked out our merch stores yet, go to lymanandhealing.com and cop one of these One Caribbean hats. Please, like, it's really comfortable. Like, I love it.
It's cute.
Yeah. So, oh, also, if you haven't checked us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts, definitely download our episodes there, subscribe to us there, because I know sometimes you may not be able to watch a YouTube. Follow us on all of our social media channels, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, at lymanandhealing.com. Everything is pretty much the same. But until we meet again, remember to
bust a line, bust a line.
See you next time.